Welcome to another installment of our 2020 Virtual Global and Community Engagement Conference, formerly known as D80. The conference is a dialogue and celebration of our efforts to solve issues that confront the world's poorest 80%. Traditionally, it's a one-day conference featuring multiple in-person panels and breakout sessions. This year, the conference is being delivered virtually throughout the month of October, including a lecture series, a Rosé Gallery exhibit, a walking tour, and a series of online interviews with local and global change makers throughout the Michigan Tech community. My name is Darnicia Slade, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing a committee of people or organizers with the B.A.S.I.C program, and they'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I am going to do a quick bio of the three individuals we have today. Dr. Kelly Stillman is an associate professor of psychology and the interim chair of the Cognitive and Learning Science Department at Michigan Tech University. She holds a B.S. in aerospace engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology and a MS in human factors and PhD in psychology from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Her research focuses on understanding human attention in information-rich environments, ranging from airplane cockpits to radar displays to websites. Why do we pay attention to things that we do? Why do we sometimes fail to notice important content or have difficulty finding information that we need? And ultimately, how can we design better interfaces to help people perform their work more safely and efficiently? Dr. Charles Wallace is an associate professor of computer science and the associate chair for curriculum and instruction in the College of Computing at Michigan Tech University. He holds a BA in linguistics from the University of Pennsylvania, an MA in linguistics from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and a PhD in computer science and engineering from the University of Michigan. His research focuses on how humans can better understand the software they build and use. He is currently working on educational programs for K through 12 students, undergraduate computer science students, and senior citizens. He is studying communication and teamwork patterns in software development settings. And finally, Anne Cecilia, how do you pronounce it? Anne Cecilia is pursuing an accelerated master's degree in computer science. The focus of her degree is human-computer interaction, and she is working with Dr. Wallace and Dr. Stillman to understand how a novice computer user explored an interface, how we can quantify that, and how we can equip people with the skills they need to get better at using the computer. All right. So first question, anyone can answer or chime in if you want to take a few minutes to tell me a bit about the B.A.S.I.C program.
Okay, well, I'll start by telling you what B.A.S.I.C stands for. It stands for Building Adult Skills in Computing. It's a program that is getting on to 10 years old now. It was started in 2011, and the idea at the beginning that has kind of stayed with us was to sort of some kind of multiple at multiple levels, kind of an outreach program, a way to give community members who are possibly struggling with digital technology or simply just newcomers and need to learn about how to get online and how to be connected, give them means to do that. We don't provide very easy ways to do that in our society. And it just so happens that I know a bunch of really smart people who know a lot about digital technology, namely the students at Michigan Tech. I'm in the computer science department, so the focus for me originally was kind of computer science students, but really there are students from all across the campus who have engaged in this and worked as tutors, helping people one-on-one, just learn about kind of how to become kind of greater digital citizens, and working sort of working in the places that where they're having the problem. So it's very focused on their own problems.
So on a general Saturday morning, what we would do is all of our tutors would show up at the Portage Lake District Library, and we would have community members come and join us there, and they'd pair up one-on-one. And the thing that kind of made B.A.S.I.C unique was that we didn't come in with a curriculum and say, we're going to teach you about Google Docs today, or we're going to teach you about social media, or we're going to teach you about files. Instead, we kind of invited people in to tell us what they were interested in. And sometimes they would come in with a really specific problem that they were having. And other times it was, I just want to learn about this, or hey, I just got this new cell phone or tablet, or I'm sick of bugging my kid for help on these things, and I'd like to ask somebody questions who won't get frustrated with me. And so our tutors sit down and really develop kind of a one-on-one plan on how to help people through this. And a lot of what they are doing is listening, empathizing, and kind of meeting people where they're at. One of the things is a lot of people come in with this idea that our tutors are experts, and indeed our tutors have a lot of experience. But the reality is that not all of our tutors use every social media platform. Not all of our tutors are using a computer to help with their small business. Not everybody is familiar with every photo app that's available. And so one of the neat things is that the community members can come in and our students can say, I don't know how to do that. Let's figure that out together. And so it kind of evens that playing field, so that we can kind of normalize this idea that technology changes too quickly for everybody to know everything. And it's an unreasonable expectation. So you shouldn't, feel dumb or feel bad about yourself because you don't know how to use something, but instead, how can we kind of practice exploring, poking around, fiddling with things, understand how to get back to where we started, how to recover from mistakes, and giving people the language to ask better questions. So that's kind of our general approach. And as Chuck mentioned, we've been running this program for going on 10 years. We've been at the Portage Lake District Library for all of that time, but we've also run the program in other places in the community through the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Library. We've had programs at Michigan Works. Chuck, help me out. What are some of the other places that we've delivered it over the years?
Nagani Public Library has engaged us, and Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly also. We had a program going on with them too for some time.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Now, so your focus is generally the elderly age group of individuals, obviously. How has the program changed over the last 10 years? Chuck, I don't know if you started the program, or I don't know at what point you all joined the program, but were you the the mastermind behind it, Chuck?
I am the, I'm not going to call myself a mastermind. That would be wrong, but I did start it. Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, we work a lot with older adults, but the program is certainly open for everyone. And a revelation, we've had plenty of revelations during doing this, but one of them is that this feeling of kind of being left behind or being out of it in terms of digital, kind of connectedness, is not something that is strictly a problem for older adults. And that was very clear when we worked with people at Michigan Works, which is an organization that's designed to sort of match people with jobs, right? Help people get get good employment, get involved, get into the working community, and we were sort of invited to go and help out there because a lot of the activities that were involved with searching for jobs, applying, and so on, that had traditionally been either paper-based or involving, kind of interacting with staff at the Michigan Works Center, moved online. And now now you're in a situation where, yeah, okay, sure, you can do this kind of work anywhere. You could do it in the comfort of your own home, from your web browser, right? And that all sounds good. And of course, there's the advantage that it costs less money, so you don't have to have as many centers around. That was clearly, one of the incentives. But there were the people at Michigan Works realized that there were plenty of people who were coming in who were spending all of their time figuring out how to use the web browser, and it was really kind of they were surprised and overwhelmed. And so that was really quite an interesting moment for us to see how people who hadn't really had quite, the advantages of having lots of computer technology around, having connectivity, and just being in a sort of a culture where that's just the norm. Of course, you go online and do stuff. They were put in this position now all of a sudden where they're forced to be in that world, and it was hard. So we did some good work and got people, I think, a little closer to that world, but there was still plenty left to do. Anyway, so just the point that it's definitely not a problem strictly for older people. A lot of times we'll hear people say, "Isn't this a problem that's going to go away?" For instance, as people, the tech savvy people, like sort of digital natives or whatever, become the new older generation. No, they'll be fine, won't they? And our sense is that the answer is no. First, because there are still plenty of people who are kind of left out of the loop, just as we've been seeing, at Michigan Works. But also, the technology changes all the time too. So the technology that you are familiar with right now and you feel comfortable with is not going to be the technology that you'll have when you're an older adult. And we've actually seen this plenty of times, examples of people who back when they were working were using computers in actually pretty sophisticated ways. They were creating spreadsheets and doing all kinds of business things, and then there was sort of a gap in between, and now they're coming back and they're trying to use their iPad, and it makes no sense, and it's almost worse because they feel that they know computers, and yet all of those skills that they had before don't seem to translate into what's happening now. So it's just really interesting kind of arena.
Yeah, one of my family members, she called me one day and said, "What does MMS mean?" And it was, even getting a text message. And I think oftentimes when I'm working on computers is user error for me. So I can imagine that you can get all types, especially with interfaces, even from the standpoint of Apple versus Android and that type of deal. So I'll get into the next question. How does your work in the B.A.S.I.C program connect with the mission of the Global and Community Engagement Conference, which is a dialogue and celebration of our efforts to solve issues that confront the poorest 80%? Or our theme this year is the pursuit of social equity and representation. So you can attack it from either one or both of those standpoints, either the purpose of the conference or this year's theme. Anyone can chime in there.
And do you want to take this, or I can?
I guess I can touch on it a little bit. I think Dr. Wallace was already kind of getting into it where there is a digital divide. Some people just do not have access to technology. And so when they come into it, they have no idea what to do. That's part of the reason I got into this. I think it's really interesting being part of like the technology generation and growing up poking around on computers. It's interesting to put yourself into that perspective of somebody who's coming into it for the first time. And so being able to understand how those people are thinking is really valuable when you're looking at designing software. And so I think this program is really helpful in trying to bridge that gap of people who are coming into technology for the first time. How can we equip them with the skills that maybe digital natives have kind of grown up with?
I think another angle is the kinds of technologies that folks show up with, right? It's one thing to go to the store and buy yourself a very expensive Mac or PC, or one of the top level tablets. It's another thing to buy yourself a budget device. One of the phones that they sell at the grocery store that's a entry level smartphone, or $100 less tablet.
Or often what we'll see is people getting hand-me-downs from family members.
Right?
Here,
Best intentions, but you're handing down something that used to be state of the art, but is now sluggish, out of date, maybe not even updatable. And you like think, oh, here's this tablet that I no longer want because it's a piece of garbage. Let's give it to grandma because this is going to be a great starting experience, right? And so we have people who are using these outdated technologies or these entry level ones that have poor usability, right? They're not designed in a way that they're intuitive. They are clunkier. They may be more prone to fail, and so it's even more challenging, I think, in some ways, to help support individuals who are dealing with this, and then especially for those individuals who are not only trying to do this but connect to public sources of Wi-Fi, or live in rural communities where the internet is less reliable. So there's just more frustrations to deal with, and so all of these are very much so kind of equity issues, in my opinion. We don't have fast internet everywhere, and we don't have people who all have the devices that afford the best learning opportunities. And so one of the reasons I think that we I guess a connected thing is we also made the choice to provide these services at the library as opposed to, say, at Michigan Tech, because the public library is a place where most people feel welcome and accepted. There's not maybe as big of a barrier to walking in the door as there might be if it was hosted on a university campus, or at a business of some type. So I think there's a lot of ways that the mission of this group kind of intersects with the themes of your conference.
Yeah, I was also thinking about, the elderly population who's on a fixed income and, the technology. I mean, I'm seeing 5G now that's just being rolled out, and it's just like it's just a moving target. And financially, the cost of a cell phone now is just astronomical. And even how that can cause limitations for this population of individuals as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, people buy these devices and they spend, $1,000, $2,000 or more, and they feel like they should last forever. And I think it's really, really frustrating for people when their technology is no longer supported by the company, or they have this feeling that I should be able to buy this and have this last me a decade. And the reality is that many of these technologies are not designed to last that long anymore. And so there are some other challenges, not just about teaching them, but kind of helping to set people's expectations about what they're getting, and what they're going to need to do over the lifespan of their device.
Yeah. Well, just when you think you have them trained on one device and then it's like it's all out the window, it's frustrating. So I think Anne mentioned a little bit of how she got involved with the work, and I wanted to kind of hear from you all to find out. Kelly, I think you may be the only one that hasn't talked a little bit about how you got involved with the work, and then any of you interested in hearing how this has affected you personally, or this local community here in Houghton Hancock.
So I got involved in the program, gosh, going on about 6 years ago now, I think. Um, Chuck had reached out to me because of my interests in attention and technology, and we're kind of thinking about what to do in the program next, and what might be some of the next steps. And so I said, well, sure, I'd love to come and check this out, and came to the library to observe and get a sense of things. And sure enough, there was a rush of patrons, and I got thrown right into a session as a tutor my first day, and I was hooked. It's to there's a lot of ups and downs in academia, right? In research. But I think one of the reasons that a lot of people are attracted to academia in general is because of the teaching component and those frequent wins in helping other people be successful. And certainly doing that in the classroom is one thing, but being able to help a member of the community, get a small win is a really great way to start your weekend. So, Saturday mornings was a really, 1 hour investment of time, and really makes you feel pretty good to be able to help people solve their problems, and go about their day a little bit happier and a little bit more productive. So.
Awesome. Does anyone want to share maybe the impact they believe that the program has had on the community in any way? The local community?
I think it's been nice for me to connect. As a student, it's been nice to connect with the community. And when I first started as a tutor, we have like a regular group of patrons that come. And so they were all like, oh, who are you? Where are you from? What's your deal? And so it was really nice to build those relationships. And I was really sad ending the year last year when we decided we were going to stop the program for the summer, because I was thinking, all these people that I'm not going to be able to spend Saturday morning with anymore. I mean, you learn about their technology problems, but then that also translates into their personal life in a way too. And so, somebody's trying to make a family tree, so then you kind of start talking about their family tree and how you might have some similarities, or somebody's going through photos and you get to see their grandchildren. So it's just a really nice opportunity to make a personal connection outside of the scope of the university.
Wonderful.
It's an aspect that we haven't really talked about much yet, that I think is tremendously valuable, is that, just as Anne was saying, students have an opportunity to learn about people in the community, and make connections with them, and really kind of understand how the technology that they're becoming experts in affects ordinary people. I think everyone has a little bit of a sense of that when they're dealing with their parents and trying to get them to connected and online. But this is a larger sense, a larger sort of a broader spectrum of the population, including some, some people who are, kind of disadvantaged compared to probably to most tech students. And that's eye-opening. I think that you have these people who are capable and energetic and motivated, but are sort of stumbling for very legitimate reasons, and that's an eye-opening experience, I think, for a lot of students. So.
As I would suspect that the partnership with the library too, as you mentioned earlier, has been really beneficial as well. So that's great, like Kelly mentioned. So to wrap up our time, if you have like one takeaway that you like others to know about the program, or any final thoughts you'd like to share.
Who's going first? I'll go first. Well, let's. I guess first of all, we welcome students from, if there are any students out there listening, or faculty, in departments at Michigan Tech. We're very open to having people from all across the campus helping out as tutors. You don't have to be a computer science student to do this, and it's it's a lot about sort of imparting that expertise that we've all kind of developed in different ways, depending on what kind of field we're in, and sort of modeling that for other people, and articulating it. So I just want to open that up, and then we also are in a broader sense, if thinking outside of Michigan Tech, other people who are interested in kind of replicating a program like this. We're Kelly and I in particular are very interested in connecting with people and thinking about this as a sort of a pattern that could be replicated elsewhere.
I'm sure you probably have a really good template of lessons learned over the years. Sure.
Oh yeah.
Kelly or Ann, you want to add anything, or?
I think to kind of extend what Chuck said, in addition to hopefully being able to bring this program or programs like this to the greater community, I think we're also interested in talking to people about the issues of tech adoption and tech acceptance in general. And, thinking about when people are developing technologies, how are we going to deal with the fact that they're changing so quickly? And how do we onboard people? And how do we, keep them up to date and prepare them to make these leaps from one technology to the next? And, if we look out across society, it isn't just a matter of computers. I mean, even in the early days of B.A.S.I.C, we had a lot of people coming in and using the desktop computers, and maybe they'd never even turned one on before. Now we're having a lot of people show up with smartphones and tablets, sometimes even smart watches, other wearable technologies. So, I mean, even in the decade that this program has been going on, it's a constantly moving target. And as we see kind of more embedded technologies, Internet of Things, more household devices that are connected, I think that this poses some really interesting questions for how we prepare people to adopt these things. And also, there's an obligation as researchers and designers to think about how we create things that will facilitate new users to get on board and to learn them more quickly. So certainly invite conversations with other people who are interested in these kinds of issues.
Wonderful. All right. Well, in closing, I wanted to extend an opportunity for you to provide any contact information for the program, or if someone wants to get involved, how they can do so. Is there a website or?
Sure. Yeah. The website is based at Michigan Tech. Our group is called Breaking Digital Barriers, and that's BDB. So the website is bdb.mtu.edu, and on that website, you'll find a link for the B.A.S.I.C program. So that's the easiest contact place.
You can also follow us on Facebook.
Nice. Okay, wonderful. And is it BDB on Facebook or is it B.A.S.I.C program?
Let's see. The
I can also
uh,
report out to me, and I'll add it.
yeah.
That's fine.
Mhm.
Well, thanks for joining us, all of you, and thanks for the interview today. Be sure to check out all of our interviews with other change makers. Simply go to mtu.edu and enter Global and Community Engagement Conference into the search tab. Have a great day.